I think first I just, and it's weird, because you're right, Julie, it's like we had the short end of the stick. We like talked to our groups already, we told them everything, and then we had to come up here and tell them, they had to hear the same thing, and it's so weird. So I apologize, group number 6. But with that being said, first I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that most people don't really know what complexity is. Like, when the word complexity is an interesting word because everybody automatically believes it's the same thing as complicated. And it's just not, right? Like, and I think when it comes to sort of the interesting hierarchy of literature, like what Matt was talking about, this strange sort of belief that the work that we do is juvenile, and I mean that in a negative connotation, or is elementary or rudimentary or less than. It's this idea that because our work to them isn't complicated, and even some of it is, right? But this notion that complication makes something good, and we see it with poetry more than anything, right? It's like if you can't understand it, that means it's brilliant. When in all actuality, I think that complexity actually has nothing to do with being complicated. What it does have everything to do with is the idea that there are, like, the actual definition is that there are multiple parts. That's all, right? Like, it's nothing. It's so funny, right? It's nothing heavy. Like, it literally just means multiple parts. There are multiple components, right? Which means that in essence, at the core, there's no way, right? As Angie was saying, there's no way you can talk about teenagers without talking about multiple parts. There's no way that you can talk about adults. There's no way that you can talk about almost anything on Earth, right? Even dirt, clouds, right? Everything that is, every piece of matter, everything that is in existence is complex, period. This is actually pretty simple. With that being said, though, I think that the issue that we're having is the lack of acknowledgement of the complexity, right? So the complexity is there by default. The complexity is literally there by default. It's just the lack of acknowledgement of that complexity that makes things complicated. It's what, I do mean complicated in an actual sense, right? It makes things complicated. It also creates one-dimensional stereotypes. It also creates highfalutin, elitist work that doesn't actually mean good. It doesn't mean good. It just means masturbatory. Right? It just means, we all know those writers, right? It's like, so you want me to read the whole book, and the whole book you're just telling me how good of a writer you are, instead of actually telling me a story, which is what I signed up for. And so I think for us, what we care about is sort of figuring out a way to display and extrapolate complexity while also doing our jobs. And what our jobs are is to tell stories that are authentic and that are honest. Now, there's another component, right? Because like Angie, and what I love about Angie, what I love about a lot of us is that we get to live in a space where we don't have to be ashamed of the work that we do. I write about Black and brown children. I always will. I am not ashamed of that. And the reason why is because as a Black boy when I was younger, what we are often told, and this is complex, what we are often told is that the language that we speak is improper. And if you think about culture, and you think about the definition of culture, people always say, the cornerstone to any culture, the only way a culture can actually exist is if it has language, right? It is built on language. All cultures are built on the symbols we assign to other things, right? Language, words, that's how we build culture. And so for you to tell me that my language is incorrect or improper or wrong is basically you telling me that my culture is less than. That my culture, that who I am and the traits and the things that I believe in, and what my mother believes in, the music we listen to, the food we eat, the way we move and through the world, the way that we think about life, our experiences are less than. Because you don't have the brain power to see the complexity in our language because it's not yours. Right? And I think what makes that complicated in its truest sense is that then all of us sit here and say we wonder why literacy rates are so low in certain marginalized communities. Yes, resources are an issue. We know that. Resources are an issue in a lot of places. Yes, we have all types of issues with taxes and schools and all this yes, all of that's true. But the other thing that's true is the fact that it seems a little naive for you to believe that young people want to build relationships with language when you've been telling them that the language that feels most natural in their mouths, the language that their mama speak, and their grandmama speak, and all the people in their neighborhood speak is incorrect. My amen girls, talk about it. take up too much time, I just want to say that I'm grateful for the work I do. I'm grateful for my partners in crime, my colleagues who do this work. For all the adult writers out there, I got love for y'all too, but you better never forget that you don't have careers if you don't make your readers. That's